Hey everyone, a little different episode this week. We're going to go through a amazing conversation that we had with our good friends over at Carrefour and JP, and obviously great episode with Caleb's from Salesforce. So very excited for you folks to hear this.
Welcome to Commerce Innovators. Each week we chat with experts, customers, and innovative partners about the latest trends and real-world outcomes in agentic commerce. Tune in for actionable insights and inspiring ideas to shape your commerce future. Let's get started.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in once again to the Commerce Innovators podcast. I am Caleb Bryant, one of your co-hosts here at Salesforce Commerce Cloud, looking after go-to-market and growth for the product team. And I am here with some pretty awesome guests on the pod, one of which is one of our close partners, Noibu. And then the other one is a longstanding customer, Carrefour, in the grocery industry. So I am super excited. I'm actually coming at you from a different location today than I normally do, which is not inside of my house, but actually in Austin, Texas. But I'm ready. I've got my Austin, Texas cold brew ready to rock. I've got the Austin, Texas sun coming in. I think it's always sunny in Austin, but less about me and more about the guests on the pod today. So Jean-Philippe, aka JP, aka Mr. Grocery from Carrefour, welcome to the pod. You have been in the digital and AI and e-commerce space for a long time, and we're so excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you, sir?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm pretty well. Why? It's because it's sunny, and it's sunny here in Belgium, Europe. You see, it's not always the time, but for the moment it's sunny. Then I'm quite happy also.
Okay, well, it's the Belgium sun today then. Texas doesn't get all the credit. And I'll give you a quick intro, JP, on your background here in a second as well. But we also have representing co-founder Kailin Noivo of Noibu, who is an awesome partner of Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Kailin, thank you so much for everything that you've done as a partner, and welcome to the pod. Love to have you on, especially with a great joint customer like Carrefour. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm in Ottawa, Canada, and we just got a snowstorm in April, which is very strange. So I'm looking outside, and all the trees are frozen. So it's actually kind of cold, but sunny. So I'm happy about that at least. And yeah, thanks for having us on the show. And JP, thanks for hopping on. Obviously, you and I have known each other for quite some time now.
Well, it sounds like we should have either done this podcast in person in Austin, or we should have done it in person in Belgium. I'm going to go for Belgium, even though I love Austin, love the breakfast tacos, love the coffee here. The vibe is great, but I think we should do the next podcast in Belgium.
You're welcome.
All right, let's do it. So JP, you've been at Carrefour for over 8 years. You're head of digital, AI, and e-commerce projects, aka Mr. Grocery, Mr. Digital at Carrefour. You develop digital strategies, roadmaps, build relationships with key partners like Salesforce and Noibu, and really bringing the digital aspect of Carrefour to life within the brand. You're responsible for ensuring that digital business services and solutions meet Carrefour's needs, targeted profit margins, achieved or exceeded growth, all within this, this framework of digital. But less about how I think about your background, more about maybe from your perspective, how you have sort of cemented your career as part of Carrefour and leading digital change there within a tremendous grocery customer there in Belgium.
Yeah, I can explain that. Like, I'm a challenge man. And do you know that in the food retail sector, it's a day-to-day challenge, be sure. And if we introduce e-commerce, the non-food e-commerce is already done. You have marketplace, etc. Everybody knows when I need to buy a non-food product, a television, where to go online. For the food product, it's a little bit more complex, and it's still the battle. And that's why we really need to be good, because sales, it's giving the trust to our customer. And giving the trust, you must be perfect from the first point to the delivery. First point, it's mainly the website or promotion or the marketing to the delivery. You must be perfect to give the trust. And like that, customer will come back again and again. But there are big differences between food and non-food. Give you an example. When you would like to buy a television, you will add one product in your cart, one product. When you buy food, there are two big differences. First one, you will add around 50 products in your basket, and you will do that every week. Not once, every week. That's the two major differences. And you can imagine all the issue you can have in your calculation of your promotion, in your checkout, etc., because it's much more complex, the food retail than the non-food retail. And that's why we need to have a perfect website, perfect customer journey to ensure that our customer will be back next week.
I love that, JP, and there's so much to dig into there, and we're gonna dig into it, and especially around the level of trust. But before I scratch that itch, I want to give Kailin an opportunity as well to introduce Noibu and really some of the value that you have done for Carrefour as well as other joint customers. Kailin, if you don't mind just giving a quick overview of Noibu, and then we can dig into some of this, because revenue optimization and checking for errors and the whole bit is obviously is critical to maintaining a high level of trust in grocery. But before we go down that road, Kailin, maybe just do a quick intro of Noibu and what you guys are up to.
Yeah, thanks, Caleb. My name's Kailin, one of the co-founders, president of Noibu. I also co-host our podcast and appreciate you having us on. The long and the short of it is we've built a product that integrates very deep with the Salesforce stack, and it enables merchants to find conversion opportunities across their website. And that could come in the form of a technical issue, could come somewhere buried in the logs, in performance, or in other aspects of the website. And we've put a AI intelligence layer on top of some of this telemetry to enable people to query it from a natural language standpoint. And what does all of this mean? Well, some of the tactical use cases is, well, you got the voice of the customer, right, JP? You got people, they say random stuff weekly, some good, some bad. How do you investigate if there's truth to it, right? How do you then investigate the scope and scale? So, for example, if someone's telling you, hey, I struggled to do click and collect, does that mean that their internet was slow that day? Or does that mean that there's like a technical issue on the website? So being able to investigate that and then understanding the scope and scale of that is very, very critical. So that's one of the use cases that we worked really closely with Carrefour on, and some of our other merchants. And we work with the Cartiers of the world, the Richemont, different brands like JBL, Harman Kardon, Guess, some of the top Salesforce merchants. And what is the outcome of that? Well, the outcome is what JP described, which is ensuring that all the blockages on the website, whether they're super technical or not in nature, are alleviated to remove any friction for the customer journey and ensure repeatable process where clients could buy week over week and they don't get hit with a poor experience. In the grocery space, it's more relevant than other businesses as well because of how high the LTV is. And typically it's lower margin per transaction. So if someone stops going to your shop and starts going somewhere else, it becomes like a force of habit because you do it weekly. And that's where it could get very dangerous to offer a poor experience even once, because you risk of losing them forever. And yeah, I mean, JP's team has done a phenomenal job, in my opinion, to leverage the insights from our platform and invoke change on the website to drive performance in the form of conversion and better client experience.
I would say not only on the website, also on our mobile app, because we have two media to sales, to make sales. And we have the website, but also a mobile app. And it's quite important to explain that.
Great.
Yeah, JP, totally agree. And I think there's, of course, at Salesforce, our number one value is trust. And that's really what we're talking about here, and would love to continue to dig in as that is the overarching topic. There's this massive sort of knife's edge, if you will, especially in grocery. Just Kailin, as you just described it, you've got these large baskets, and JP, as you mentioned, they're filled up with 50 items, 75 items. They all have their retail prices, but then of course, week over week, the pricing is different because based on different promotions that are either coming from the grocery brand or from the brands that the grocery store carries. And of course, all that needs to be reflected. And all of those promotions, and people care about, ultimately what the in basket size is, almost agnostic of how many items are in the basket, because they have a specified budget, every week for grocery. And so then they're going to be adding items. They're going to be, removing items. They're going to be adding other items in. They might pick up the organic item if that's, 20% off this particular week. And so it's less the buying process is more habitual, but the types of items that are purchased are so widely variegated, sort of week over week, buyer by buyer. And as JP, as you put it, there needs to be this high level of trust between the customer and the brand, even as they're building their baskets, whether it's on the mobile app, on the web experience, or any other experience that they might have. Maybe they're interacting with a shopper that's shopping on their behalf, and that interaction through SMS or whatever the case might be. There's this high level of trust that is required. JP, if you could just describe from a grocery industry perspective, the challenge in that aspect in order to keep a customer, not only to acquire one, but then to keep one. And then maybe as the head of digital and AI inside of Carrefour, what that opportunity looks like for you. But if you don't mind just describing what that looks like for you at Carrefour, I think that would be sort of a great jumping off point.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to have to have a good churn. The churn, it's we check if the customer is coming back after 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, and it's quite difficult to have a very loyal customer. Loyalty, it's a key in our industry, and it's not so easy to have them because there are a lot of competition in our food market and a lot of proposals. Then it's quite difficult to ensure that people are coming back. And what we are doing in my team to ensure that customers are really happy, we launch, of course, NPS surveys, but we check every week the verbatim of our customer, then the comment of our customer link with the experience in our website to ensure we are at the right level. But that's only verbatim. That's a very small part of our customer who are speaking to say, hey, I had a bad experience there. And the issue is, okay, they give us some information. I have a bad experience in the promotion because I didn't receive my promotion. Okay, thank you. But it's not possible to contact all our customers to ask them, okay, where are you, on which device? Where are you, on mobile phone or web? If it's on mobile phone, is it iOS, or Samsung? We don't know. And, customer don't. Then that's quite difficult to have information, technical information from our customer. They just say, we have some issue, but after that, to deep dive, it's not possible to do that with a real customer. Then we need, for this kind of issue, of this kind of problem in the customer journey, we need a tool to give us all the technical information. Like that, we ensure we are working on the right issue. Much more than that, we have all the time issue in production. But my main point is how to prioritize all the issue I have. Because I can work on the first issue I receive because it's my CEO who sent me the issue. Hey, JP, it's no more possible.
Right.
My wife was like, again and again, this issue. Okay, chief, I will work on this issue. But is it really the major one where I lose a lot of money, or is it another one? And that's quite important for me to have that kind of dashboard to see in my funnel where is the issue and does the issue impact a lot of people and impact really my turnover. That's the two crucial information I need. And when I have the prioritization, I can deep dive the 5 more important issue and correct them. I would explain in the in the near future how to correct the issue.
Let's say more on that. Kailin, you probably know something a little bit about revenue leakage and revenue optimization, I would think.
I would hope so.
Let's dive in. You're the pro. You probably know the most about this more than anybody. I know that my brain was spinning up in a certain direction as JP was talking more towards how AI can be leveraged in that capacity. But before we even get there, Kailin, let's talk about what Noibu does in that specific scenario that JP just described to identify where the biggest opportunities are for, revenue leakage mitigation, revenue optimization. Let's dig in. Kailin, you're the pro on this topic, so I'm going to shut up and let you go because let's say more on this.
Yeah, so there's a couple different, and I think what JP mentioned is bang on, right? So there's where most businesses are before they start working with us is they're very reactive to whether it's an internal stakeholder like an executive's wife or husband who has an issue or something you read through voice of customer. So they're usually quite reactive. And investigating that is very time consuming. And more times than not, it's a dead end, meaning it's not actually something that you need to really do anything about, but you still burnt half a day investigating it. So that we help streamline through AI and some of our tooling, that investigation, right? So how do you investigate that is one of the workflows we power. That's very much just making sure you don't waste your time. Now, where we like to flip this, which is something that's novel that candidly I could take, that not I, but our business could take credit for, is revenue optimization through technical and website excellence, right? And that comes in a few different factors. It's number one, proactively eliminating issues that may not even be flagged in voice of customer, but is causing large drop off. So that's like number one. Number two, pairing that with your existing logs so that you could do kind of the same motion, but with more of your backend data. And then number three is how do you find which promotions and which parts of the website are very, very, very slow and causing high drop off? So how do you make your website more performant overall? And then where we're heading kind of, and JP knows this as well, is where you then start looking for those more. So we talked about the reactive investigate, we talked about proactive technical excellence. And we think the last layer is how do you leverage things like AI to understand how to actually change how your website's either laid out or how to do promotions on the website and basically leverage all the intelligence that you have on the clients that is gathered to be more proactive and make suggestions to drive conversion. And that's kind of the full gambit. And you need to do it in a way. JP's teams, no, you won't find a team in ecom that tells you they have too much staff and too much time. Everybody thinks they're understaffed and too busy. So how do you cut through the noise and bring them the insights on a silver platter? We think is very critical in being able to deliver the excellence because nobody has time to go into a legacy system for 3 hours to investigate what they should do. And then from there, come up with like a product management thesis and test. It's just too cumbersome. So I would say it breaks into a few different horizons. Number one, horizon one, ensure that you're not wasting your team's time investigating potential ghosts. Horizon two is how do you proactively find revenue leakage across your website that's impacting your GMV and your customer churn and plug all those holes proactively. And then number three, how do you get offensive and leverage AI and systems to drive net revenue impact to the business by making recommendations and changes on the website. So that's kind of how we see tying those three horizons together.
Yes, if I may, I will highlight what Kailin explained. Really easy to understand. I received some alert this morning. Hey, GP, you have 5 products without images, without picture. That's an issue, and nobody will call me to say, hey, there is some picture missing in your website. Nobody will do that, of course. But quite interesting because there is a real impact. Nobody will buy something without a picture. Okay, then that's a real impact. I received the alert. I already directly call PIM, Product Information Management, and I asked them, hey, could you add the 5 picture, please? Because we have an issue. That's a clear issue I had this morning. Second point is before coming on the website, you will go on Google, for example, and you search for a product. That's the SEO. You need to be on the top of Google. And what a good website must have, it's a good performance. Google requests around 1 second loading time for each pages. Okay, we are with SFCC around 1 second. That's cool. But from time to time, you have big picture weight. The weight is not so good, etc., etc. Then you are under the Google requested performance. And Noibu is now providing this information. And it's quite important because performance of the web pages are quite important for the SEO because there is a direct impact on the search results. That's why I'm also looking to the performance through Noibu to ensure that I do not have any issue there because it's before the website there. We are on the search, you see? Then that's the beginning of the journey of our customer.
Totally. And that's probably new customer acquisition. In many cases, you're grabbing those customers that aren't necessarily habitually using the app or have a logged in experience on the web. But they are looking for if it's organic beef or if it's, a certain type of product that has specific ingredients, you're going to look for that. Right. And so the discovery process happens both on site in app, but then also outside of that. And to your point, I love it. It's a phenomenal point, and certainly one that does have a customer acquisition impact, but also has an indexing impact, is optimization of those given pages. And especially when the assets that are being leveraged, and you've got, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of SKUs, some active, some not active, right? Just depending on global supply chain, right? We haven't even talked about that. But you've got all these SKUs and you've got the associated images, the descriptions, making sure that everything is lined up. And then, of course, the impact of that from an optimization perspective is really where you have, great tech like Noibu that can layer on and show you where those opportunities for either potential revenue mitigation may arise, where you have products that are listed that might have an impact on your customer acquisition strategies. And you might be spending a bunch of money on ads for that particular brand. And if the assets aren't performing well, then of course, that's going to have an impact on how performant those particular ads are. Right. So, Kailin, you have a ton of experience in this category. Help us say more on this topic in particular. And I think the second question on that is, where then is Noibu investing more specifically in AI to help to identify those opportunities for, revenue sort of risk mitigation more quickly and bring that information back to folks like JP? But then maybe some other aspects as well that as you guys are investing in AI that are super meaningful to the business in this capacity or even beyond.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think when JP and I started chatting, and this is pre the AI era, this is 2019, 2020. It's actually kind of the COVID era. What I'll call SaaS products 1.0 was ingesting data and enabling clients to chart it themselves, right? Sometimes you build the charts for them. sometimes that they build it themselves, but it's very much was built human centrically for somebody to log in and spend hours as an analyst researching and extracting the data to then come up with a theory to then drive action and measure it.
Yes.
And that's like 1.0. And that's where a lot of the legacy players have built their infrastructure. It's data collection and data visualization. So from day one, we knew that our unique insight was that in e-commerce, people wanted the insights given to them on a silver platter. And that was the first part of how we started building our product. Now, how does AI accelerate all of this? Well, it allows us to push the boundaries on what we thought was possible before. And a good tactical example is, well, we have the data. You could chart it if you want, but really what teams like JP and JP's team wants is for somebody to automatically investigate it and come up with some sort of recommendation on how to address it, so that the investigation time is minutes instead of, in some cases, hours.
It's more validation than investigation at that point.
Exactly. It's more validation. It's a great way of putting it. So where we see this category going is it will only be resource constrained by now. And what I mean by that is if you want to log in, you have a list of recommendations that are teed up that you could validate and prioritize based on your corporate goals. And there will be already a business case built. And the relevant information to coordinate with your development team or your systems integrator is all in a magic Jira ticket so that you can click a button as the validator and pass it on. And that is very much where we believe the market is today. And if you're not doing that today, you're already behind. And where we think this is headed is in the agent action path, where from there, right, as you get more confidence, and the example I always give is my wife has a Tesla. And if she was to get it, she got it 2 years ago. If on day one, it was like sit in the back seat and I'm going to drive you around and you don't have to do anything, the confidence level, in my opinion, is not there, right? You trust it to park your car. You trust it to pull itself out of the garage. And that's where I think we're at now, right? And then as time goes on, it'll get more to the self-driving in this analogy, where I think for agent actions, what it is it'll do all the investigation work for your sprint planning. It'll chalk it up and you'll then validate it. And then it'll start prepping the implementation plan for the development team so that when they go to write the code to fix the bug or implement the change, they could do it in a fraction of the time. And then as the confidence grows in the system, I suspect maintenance will be on autopilot, meaning a bug will be flagged, it'll be quantified, it'll automatically be opened if it hits a certain threshold that the business defines, right? And then an agent action will take to start writing the code. Someone will review the code and implement the change and measure the impact. And I think that's where we're headed. And we're poised, in my opinion, to be the core infrastructure to power that in commerce, because that's effectively how we've been building the product from the first day.
Well, and I think totally agree. And let's definitely talk more about that. I think that also, using JP, your analogy of when you get a notification of 5 items with missing images, instead of JP then having to initiate the request to PIM, and then having the individual or people responsible for the product information management, a component of the Carrefour digital supply chain, that then can become an agent. And then JP then is the one who is prompting, building the prompts, monitoring the prompts, making sure that those interactions from system to system, when those opportunities are identified, are being mitigated as quickly as possible. And then, Kailin, to your point, the tickets become the prompt for writing the mitigation methodology, and then the handoffs also then turn into opportunities to embed agents in that capacity as well. But then what does that do? Because then you could say, oh, well, JP used to do that. Well, maybe JP didn't want to do that. Maybe the best use of JP's time is then to go work on solving big problems. JP, you said it yourself. You're sort of a challenge seeker, right? You're looking for the big challenge to go tackle. How would you say that AI, where are we at today? Where are you at in terms of adoption as a brand? And where do you see adoption going, inside of Carrefour, then maybe beyond?
Yeah, link with AI. Indeed, for the moment in our Noibu tool, we have AI provide you the line where the error is. Then you can say directly to developer, hey guy, there is an error on the line 23. And it provide you also the solution. Then you need to correct the line like that, and it will work. You see, then we are there. My point is we will go to the next step. Now we will correct directly the line in the code, like that is done, and it will create the test cases and test if it's okay or not. That's for me the future. But I would like to come back to one thing. We are always speaking about production. Yes, we found issue in production. It's not only that, guys. We launched Salesforce platform in April 2024, and we set up the platform within 6 months, something like that. During the setup of the platform, we also use Noibu to find bug not in production environment, but in test
stage
and development environment. Like that, we ensure when we go live, it's clear, because that's a story. You arrive from time to time, you need to set up a new platform and to launch it in production. And for your info, I just launched a new mobile app. And on the first day, I set up a milestone on Noibu and say, hey, I would like to have all the bugs from Monday, 8 a.m. to noon. Okay. And I have a major one. The search on e-commerce for iOS was not working. That's a major issue. You don't have any search. And how to find it? Nobody called me, to be sure. Nobody called me. No customer will call me. And that's why quite interesting. We use this tool before the production, and just when we launch a new release, we check if there is some major bug linked with the release. And that's quite interesting. I can also evaluate a little bit the quality of the development following the number of bugs of each release. When I check the number of bugs after 2 days for this release, only for this release, I can ensure that they are working well or not. You see, and then I can also manage the team. That's some other cases we already also have with this kind of tool.
Totally, I love that, and our GM Nitin says frequently, information is always a gift. It just may not be wrapped. And I think this is a great example of you're receiving this this feedback both in in development and staging and production environments, and it's information, right? And sometimes it's like, hey, 0 issues, fantastic. That's information wrapped in with a nice big bow. A lot of times though, it's not that case, and you're looking to smash bugs. If it's in a staging environment and you're doing a bunch of QA, or it's in a production environment and you're looking to mitigate those missing images or search, not firing correctly, and you want to capture that feedback as quickly as possible, respond to that feedback as quickly as possible, and get to a place of 0 issues again as quickly as possible, so that it's not impacting the customer experience, right?
Yes, I have an old sentence in my life, an old one. I do not remember from who, but it costs 1,000 more to fix a bug in production than in development. You see, then I always prefer to use the tool before the production, but of course in production it's also the case. But that's a little bit my philosophy, to try to fix bug before the production.
Yeah, and we just recorded a podcast with another great Salesforce customer yesterday, And it's interesting because he said, the value to the customer is only once you go live, right? And so the customer won't experience anything. You can't monetize the value of that customer until you do go live. But and of course you want to have like the best experience that you possibly can once you do go live. But it's all the work that you've done in advance of that to prep, the mobile app experience, prep the web experience, whatever the case might be, so that you can have pixel perfect experiences, highly performant, highly trusted, which is what we're talking about here. But then, like you said, it's it's about what you do prior to go live, but then also once you are live in production, you want to have that same level of visibility. And I think sometimes technology is catching up. Like we've always had this desire, and I think Kailin and your team at Noibu is a great example of like filling in the gap where the desire was there first, and the technology wasn't necessarily up to speed until innovation sort of filled that gap. I think that's really where there have been, I think, this great opportunity for folks like Noibu to say, hey, there's a ton of data that we can share with you that will help you to build better experiences. But then once you do go live, we're going to do the same thing, right? And it's not just about like this whole team bug bashing prior to go live, and then once you do go live, well, this whole team goes away. Well, that's you only start generating revenue once you do go live, right? And so then you need the team fixing a bunch of stuff and doing a bunch of optimization stuff, and you need probably even like more eyes on in that capacity in a production environment. Kailin, feel free to take that wherever you want to. But I think it's a very, very sort of hands-on real scenario of like how tech and how people are filling the gap of expectations, both here and desired in this digital sort of consumption economy.
Yeah. And I think you need to look back to 20, 30 years when e-com was first launched. So these are all, yeah, exactly. These are all rough numbers.
Were you alive then, Kailin?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
But I became, I was born shortly thereafter. But if you look back to when kind of commerce was at the dawn with like the eBays and Amazons of the world, they were largely ran like technology businesses. So the percentage of time being spent on quality and making sure the server's balanced and the website doesn't go down was probably half to 60% of your development time, right? As platforms like Commerce Cloud came out, a lot of that kind of burden went to the platform. So I would say it could probably inch towards like 30, 35%. And what we've been working to do, and we've successfully done, is we've brought it, we believe, to under roughly about 10, 15%, meaning the amount of time that you have to spend on quality, because you cut out a lot of the investigation, you have a lot of the investigative work, and it's more validation. And we believe we can get it to under 1%. I think JP mentioned one of the use cases that we're looking to chase after, right? Well, if you know what the issue is, if you could auto-validate it, send it to the right person, recommended solution, could you really get that whole thing down? And then maybe you start writing the code and then someone just needs to review it. Like that, I think, is kind of the grail, because at the end of the day, it's not about fixing bugs. It's about driving revenue on the website. And there's two ways of doing that: investing in what you currently have or developing new things. And the paradox is when you develop new things, it creates more tech debt. So if we can automate tech debt and then provide you with the guidance on what to build, we believe we could be the most powerful platform underneath the product, right? That they're selling. So yeah, most of that we feel like we've already executed towards, but we have a bit more to go on the automating the quality aspect, and we're starting to really dabble into helping guide businesses on what to build next and where to invest.
JP, I see your head. Wheels are turning in there. What are your thoughts on that?
I really think that the digital world provides us something different from the brick and mortar. We have both. We have store brick and mortar and online, but digital give you data, and all the data we have on digital with AI, we can already speed up fast forward all the issue and solve them easily. And indeed, I do not have to take my phone to call somebody to add images. It must be automatically done. Of course, that's nearly the future, and we need to go there because the time we spend to do some stupid thing like that, we can take this time to have a drink together. No, to work on the other stuff. Then data. It's really a key aspect of the digital, and with AI we can really improve the flow. And I will come back to my first sentence linked with the trust. Food retail, it's giving the trust, but every seller will say that it's giving the trust to our customer. I will just give you the info. The NPS of our website, it's around 70. Week after week, that's the best result we never had at Carrefour. We are measuring the NPS on store, we have several type of store on other stuff, but we are the best result here in Belgium. And we are on the top since the launch of indeed Salesforce. And that's just, for me, the best indicator that we are working in the right way. It's the NPS because that's the customer feedback. And at the end, it's the customer will buy. Then I'm always listening to the customer. And Noibu is a story about listening to the customer.
I'd love to be described as that. And JP is so true. And we'll wrap up on this, and I think it's a great wrap up point because digital is the channel that allows for you to capture the human experience through data points. And we've never really had that before, and Kailin was joking, but it's such a phenomenal point. Like when the internet started 20, 30 years ago and it really started getting going, that was the beginning. But just look where we're at now and look how much data we can capture that we can leverage to build into our assumptions, build into our prompts when generating agents to respond to insights and actions. We live in such a fast-paced world as a result of this, and we're able to cycle way more quickly into getting to better and building better customer experiences in near real time. And I think that's a phenomenal sort of achievement in its own right, just based on where we've come from. I cannot wait to see what the next 20, 30 years are going to be as well. Clearly, an agent is going to be talking on behalf of all of us. But and then we're all going to be drinking Belgian beers in Belgium instead, and we're just going to have agents talking to other agents.
Perfect.
I think that's great. But thank you, Kailin, JP. Thank you both. We named this podcast the Commerce Innovators Podcast for reasons like you, and that is you are both innovators, and we are doing this in the framework of commerce. And I can't thank Carrefour enough for being a Salesforce Commerce customer, but JP, I can't thank you enough for representing innovation in this space. You are a commerce innovator. JP, your career probably exemplifies that. Kailin, certainly you are a commerce innovator. And I think this is the forum that really allows for us to have these really sort of illustrative conversations to bring to light the innovation that's done by phenomenal companies, but then also phenomenal folks like yourselves. So I can't thank you guys enough. We'll wrap on this, but really, really enjoy this conversation. Let's do it again, but let's do it in Belgium. And then also let's let our agents maybe talk for us, and we'll just go to the bar.
I invite you, everybody.
Thanks a lot. All right, that was nice. Thanks, Caleb, for having me. Thanks, JP, for hopping on.
Of course. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another enlightening episode of Commerce Innovators. We've got a treasure trove of remarkable discussions and insights lined up just for you in the world of Commerce Cloud. To stay in the loop and never miss a beat, be sure to rate, review, and follow our podcast. Your feedback and support mean the world to us, and we can't wait to have you with us for our future episodes. Until next time, stay inspired and keep innovating.